The views and opinions expressed by guests on this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of myself or our sponsors. And welcome back to Homes Off Script. Last time I checked the stats, we are the number 17 podcast in Encino, California. And I have no idea. I don't check those stats, but it seems like a good number to go off of. Super excited. I know I've been missing for the last couple weeks. Work's been kind of crazy, but super excited to get this thing kicked back off with a titan of the industry that I'm sure every home inspector knows, and that is Ian Robertson. Believe you are in the I think I've heard you say it on your podcast, capital region of New York. So as if you really need an introduction, I will go ahead and let you introduce yourself to anybody that might not know, and we will get started.
Well, thank you. I don't think I would ever call myself a Titan. We were joking about that. I think you're the Titan probably on this particular podcast. And I'm not usually on this side of the mic, so to speak, because I'm the owner of Inspector Toolbelt. We have our podcast, and we're actually doing an episode with you too. And I'm a home inspector. I've been a home inspector for almost 20 years now. I am just a wild, crazy man. So I started 3 inspection companies, 2 home inspection companies, and 1 sewer/septic company. And it wasn't on purpose. I just said, man, this would be a good idea. Oh, let me try this. Hey, let me see if this works. And everything just kind of happened from there. I also own Full View Home Inspector Marketing, which was my gateway into the digital world. We make home inspection websites, SEO, stuff like that. And I just kind of troll around on Facebook groups and Nashi forums and all over the place, and just every once in a while pop in with a snarky remark, giggle a little, and run away. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I think I'm caught up on every episode of Inspector Toolbelt over the 3 seasons that you're in, and I always have to giggle at your dad jokes because they're pretty awful. But that's it's kind of the point of a dad
gloriously
joke.
Bad.
So yeah. And then you mentioned Full View. I have to respect that you won't host me or won't provide me service because there's another inspector in my market. So as annoying as that may be, I can't do anything but respect that you have that level of respect for your clientele, that you're not just going to take anybody and everybody on. So,
well, thank you. And I do always feel bad when we can't take an inspector on. It's a rule that I made because I'm never really much about the bottom line. I like to do cool things and work with cool people and make things work. And does it hurt our bottom line having an exclusivity policy? Yeah, because you can't have 5 guys in one market. But you have 5 guys in one market, you can't sell weapons to both sides of the war. It's SEO, You're telling, if you have 11 guys, there's only 10 spots on page 1. You're like, yeah, I'll get you there. Or if you're in the map pack, there's only 3 or 4 spots there. How are you going to get all 5 of them on there? It's just icky, is the way I put it. So I like to keep things clean as much as possible. We do, we just try to keep things clean and work hard for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I can't do anything but respect that. So honestly, the main reason that I wanted to get you on this podcast is because you don't promote yourself enough on your own. And I want to hear more about Inspector Toolbelt, the capabilities of it, and how it came to be, I guess.
Well, that's really kind of you. And I've had other people. I don't know if you remember the episode with George Karampolis. He says the same thing. He's like, you don't talk enough about your software. I try to bring value to the inspection industry, and if we have a good product, it kind of, I think, speaks for itself. And I mean, we have thousands of user profiles now, and I think that speaks for itself too. But how it came about was, just like any other home inspector, I'm using my software. I'm like, this just isn't working for me. I actually, because I have OCD of various degrees mixed with ADD, I started measuring the times I tapped on something. And the software I was using at the time is a very popular software, but I counted it. I'd have to tap 5 times in. I had to go into the menu, the category, the section, then click on this, and then start typing my text, take a picture, start clicking a bunch of buttons, and then back out. It was anywhere from 9 to 15 taps. So I have employees too, so we used various different softwares, and I hired some of my employees to, or paid them to go and try out every software in the market. The lowest number of taps was like I think 7. I'm like, that seems like a lot. So
Yeah.
if I have 300 items in my report, I mean that's 2,100 taps of just on the lowest setting, just click, click, click. And on the average, that was going to be 4,000 taps.
Right.
So I started doing math. It was just process mapping. I always talk about process mapping. So I'm like, how do we reduce the number of taps? So that's where we came out with Inspector Toolbelt. That was the original concept of how can we just make it so that you can tap in and tap out. And we have like, if you're familiar with Trello, we call it a Trello style board where you
Hmm.
can just access everything all at once without having to really scroll or click through. So our average number of taps is 4. So you go
Wow.
click, here's your defect, here's your picture, and then back out. So we're very proud of that. We have literally measurably the least number of taps, and then expanded from there. Um, well, originally we had scheduling software, and then it developed into that, and then we add on features and we keep making it better, and users keep joining, and we're just having a fun time just um, making cool stuff and doing cool things.
Yeah. The Matthew McConaughey method. Ah, I just sat into he did a training thing yesterday on Zoom. Like 2.4 million people uh, tuned into this thing, and one of the realtors that uses me a lot that I've used or has used me for years. She did a VIP experience with it and invited us all in to their training room. And so yesterday I got a full like 4 hours of Matthew McConaughey and his thoughts and how to live life, and that was one of the themes was meet cool people, do cool things, or meet yeah, something like that. Meet cool people, do cool things, or something. your
Oh,
your
I
statement
thought
there
I had
just
made
kind of
that up.
reminded me.
Matthew McConaughey stealing my mantra, man.
I think he is. I think he is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to
Yeah.
talk to him about that. I'll see
Yeah.
him on
I'll,
Thursday. No, I'm just
I'll
kidding.
give you credit for it. That's fine. Um,
There you go.
so yeah, full disclosure, I have Inspector Toolbelt downloaded to my iPad. I've played around with it in the office, but I have not taken it out on to a real inspection and given it a test drive or anything like that. What I have done in the office, I've been pretty impressed with. It's hard to change,
Yeah.
and so just the thought of and so one of my questions before on your guys's on the help chat was I able to import my template and all in my comments and everything, and you finally you guys got that set up, so I was able to completely import my template. Some things don't exactly match up just because that's how software works, uh,
Hmm.
but playing with it in the office, uh, I was like, man, yeah, I think I know exactly what their uh, thought process was. Like you said, reducing the number of clicks and everything. Uh, and again, change is hard. I can't bring myself just quite yet to take it on a live inspection. Although this morning's would have been a really great one because it was just a simple frame inspection. So I could have,
Nice.
by myself, nobody else was around, so I could have struggled my way through it if that's what it came to, or, you know, okay, I'm really not in the frame of mind to do this, so switch over to my regular software or whatever. But um, I say that to say that I really do want to give it a full test drive out on a real inspection and see if you can back it up because I think you can, and I look
Yeah.
forward to doing that. So yeah, I mean, thank you
You know,
for creating a privately owned, again, and we're in that world now, company to
Yeah.
to for inspectors. Um,
Yeah, and we plan on staying privately owned. Like I said, my mantra is do cool things, make cool things. You know, the Matthew McConaughey method. But yeah, we're not going to sell out to any big corporation. That's not our plan. But you know, you talk about it. It's hard to switch, even if you have. You know, it's funny. Even if you have terrible software, you might like your current software. Anybody listening, but even if you had just awful, terrible, it's just hard to change. You know, it's
mhm.
like I always relate it to changing your pants. You know, I have this pair of pants with holes in the knees and they're just ragged and half falling apart, but they fit perfect. I know how they're gonna fit. I know what belt to wear. And a new pair of pants just never feels right until you wear
Right.
it for a while. So we get that at Inspector Toolbelt. I'm like I said, I'm a home inspector. Um, my own inspectors, whenever we switched software, it was like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this. And then you give it a week or two, and you're like, oh wow, okay, now I get it. So, it's like changing your pants.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So, what's the latest updates that you guys have come out with? Just a couple new features or something.
well, just to give a few examples, we're working on location tags right at the moment. That's been requested a lot. Our last big feature release was we came out with a repair request generator. So,
Hmm.
like a lot of software has, you can click on defects in your report and generate another little mini report of repairs that need to be made, or your client can, I should say, more accurately. So
Right.
it's not something that, the home inspector is typically using. It's the agents using it for negotiations.
Hmm.
4 point and a whole bunch of other features. Right now, we're working on expanding our multi-inspector capabilities. So right now, you can share inspections, assign them to different inspectors, and
Okay.
work on the same inspection. But we want to develop more of an administrative aspect to our software, so the owner of a company can just say, "Okay, here's all my inspectors. Here's little toggles of which inspections they offer, what time frames they're in, or time zones rather, what their service radius is." And have more granular control over everything. Because a guy like me, I want that. I want to know where somebody's going. I don't want to schedule an inspection for Todd, but Todd doesn't do septic inspections, and this person asks for a septic inspection. I want to have it automatically say, okay, here's your two inspectors to choose from, that kind of thing. So that's our
Hmm.
big project right now. We're adding a lot of administrative features because one of the things that inspectors come to us with the most is they want to we're going to say get off the porch. So they want more administrative features to kind of get away from certain other aspects of the industry, and so that's what we're working on. We're not a big company, so the good thing is we're a small business. We're independently owned. The bad part of that is we don't have a huge team of 30 developers that can just whip up a feature when people want them. It takes time. We have 4 developers going at it day in and day out, sometimes night in and night out. We have a good sized support team. My belief has always been your support team should be as big or bigger than your development team. Even with Full View Home Inspector Marketing, that company, we always wanted our support to be as big or bigger than the guys pumping stuff out, because I want to make sure guys feel comfortable when they contact us. If they contact us, I don't want to say, "Hey, you gotta wait a day or two, and we'll get to you. We have a lot of support requests." I want to be available as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, man, and I wish I had like 4 hours to just sit here and pick your brain, um, because
It wouldn't take
you
that long to pick my whole brain, Shannon.
uh, well, just from a business mindset standpoint, I I think so. The way I got into home inspections is I didn't want to have a boss. I didn't want to work for anyone. I didn't want to be a boss. I didn't want to have a boss. Um, Knew of home inspections. Hey, let's try this out. Retired from the military, and so Uncle Sam pays me a little bit in the morning to wake up, and didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up. Uh, so started this thing out as a one-man shop, thinking I'll just do what I need to do to float by with no real business acumen. Just I've never run a business, I've never owned a business, but I'll figure this out. And 8 years into it, yeah, almost 8 years into it, um, my mindset has shifted as it goes, and I'm still trying to pick up some of that business acumen and figure out how do I create an actual business rather than just Shannon going out doing home inspections and coming home and that's it. um,
Hmm.
so jumping out of comfort zones and everything like that, starting this podcast, I mean, it's all kind of part of it. And I learn a little bit on everything that I do. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I wish I had all day to just sit here and, okay, well, what about this? And, all those dumb questions that you don't want to ask in the Facebook groups because I don't want to get roasted, you know. Um,
That's never fun.
right.
Well, we can
Although
we can ask we can ask them here.
admittedly,
Yeah,
I'm
this
the one doing a lot of the roasting sometimes in some of those groups, uh, but that's a whole
sometimes a
different
little roasting is
cast.
good. We all need to not take ourselves very seriously.
I
I've had a
agree.
couple people
And
roast me a couple times, and it's like, all right, that's whatever. I grew up with brothers and
right.
uncles,
Yeah.
and I got called moron probably about 20 times an hour. So
Right, yeah, yeah. That became your name, yeah, the actual
yeah,
name there for
exactly.
a while. Uh,
What's your name,
no, it's,
moron? Oh no,
yeah,
Ian. That's right.
right, yeah. I get confused sometimes. Uh, but no, I mean, as far as the roasting goes, and I don't want to dive into that too much, but
Nah.
there's just certain questions that like, man, you got to know this stuff before you're charging people money. And coming onto a public group is probably not the best look. So yeah, it goes overboard sometimes. Not, I mean, I'm sure I have too, but I'm not specifically talking about myself. But some of the guys, go a little overboard in their roasting. But I
Yeah,
think the end result or the end thought process is trying to make the industry better overall. Of you know, cut cut the weak out, and although I don't think it's our job really to cut the weak, but I think that's the mindset
no,
of I'm going to roast this guy.
the industry tends to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the industry tends to do that on its own. For the most part, I should say. For the most part, it tends to do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's not our place.
So, what else? What else can we talk about? Like I said, I really the main point I wanted to get some Inspector Toolbelt promo going for you.
Well,
Not
and I
for the
appreciate
three
that.
people that actually listen to the podcast.
Hey, you might be four. I'll listen to this one. No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
so are you going to join? Can I talk you into joining Inspector Toolbelt as a song? No.
No, and I appreciate that. But my main thing is I just like to add value to inspectors, like I said before. And if you do listen to our podcast, that's not just me saying, "Oh, hey, I'm going to add value and then sell you a bunch of stuff." I try not to promote our app too much on the podcast. Almost never, to be
Right.
honest.
Yeah.
There's a
I mean,
little running credit at the end,
right.
but
Exactly. Yeah. No.
you know,
Like I said, I think that's great. I do kind of wish you would plug it a little bit more, just because. I mean, it's yours. Like,
for
hey,
you,
but
Shannon, I'll start plugging it more.
oh, really? Wow, man. See, I am a Titan. I am a Titan. I'm getting it,
You are a
getting
titan of the home
changes made
inspection
now.
industry.
Uh, no,
But yeah,
but
you
yeah, I mean,
you
your
said
your podcast is amazing. I really have enjoyed catching up on the seasons. I think I found it late because you're in season 3, and I just
mhm.
started listening to it probably 6, 7 months ago. But you got an hour long drive. I can catch up on 2 podcasts on each direction, so caught up pretty quick. But yeah, you do. You really do add a lot of value to the industry. Um, I don't know why inspectors wouldn't listen to podcasts on their drive because there's a few of them out there that really do provide a lot of value, and
Mhm.
there's some that like mine are probably just us sitting around BSing a little bit. Uh, but then
That's
there's
okay.
yours and
I
a
go
couple
here. I
others that really just come out and like, hey, here's what you need to know to be a better inspector. And
mhm.
man, I gravitate to that kind of stuff. So I need all
Well,
the
I
help
do
I can
listen to
get.
your podcast. Yeah, I do listen to your podcast. I like the one you did with Buck. Buck Fleming's my buddy. I like him.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's just a matter of actually discussing things. And before you were saying that you wanted to talk about a few things, including our software, obviously, that you wanted to talk about. But I'm more than happy to talk about anything on your podcast that you think would bring benefit to the inspectors. I think you wanted to talk about how to transition into being multi-inspector. I think that was one
Yeah,
of the subjects that you were
yeah,
hoping to
absolutely.
discuss.
I didn't know how deep we wanted to go, so just kind of treading the surface there. But yeah, so
Yeah.
as I kind of alluded to, I'm single man operator. I did have a guy that I was training for a while, buddy of mine that was interested in the field. Uh, Thought he was going to stick around with me. Ended up deciding to go out on his own, which he came to me and he took his national home inspector exam, passed all his Texas licensing and all that. And he goes, "Would you be mad if I went out on my own?" I was like, "Well, mad's not the right word. You're a buddy of mine. We've spent all this time together. We've known each other for, shoot, at that point, 6, 7 years. I said, I wouldn't be mad. I wish you all the success in the world.
Hmm.
Kind of wish I would have known that was the direction it was going, but, good luck." And he's 60 miles away from me, probably. And I mean, he's doing great in his market, and wish him all the best. Uh, as soon as he left, uh, I had a guy call me out of the blue. Got my name from another inspector. Said, "Hey, I've been licensed for a few months now, just not getting the marketing piece of it. Just not getting the phone ringing. Are you looking to hire?" And man, if he would have called me a week later or 2 weeks prior to, I probably been like, no, no, I'm good. He caught me in that that 1 to 2 day period of, man, now that my other guy is gone, I really feel like I need to have somebody else, because the phone had started ringing more and more. Uh, Hired him on a couple months later, didn't work out. you know, I didn't go through the right hiring process and vetting process and looking back and saying, okay, is this the guy I want to have to train and get him out on his own? Uh, so really, as somebody that's been through it before, you know, what are some hiring tips? How do you transition from a single man to, again, like they always say, working in your business, not on, or working on the business, not in the business, all that. Um, and how do you find the right guys and stuff like that? So whatever you can
Yeah.
provide on that would be great for me because again, trying to learn all this stuff.
Yeah, and there's a couple of things about that. There's two very difficult transitions that you make as an inspection company. So first of all, you need to decide, do I want to go multi-inspector? I'm going to call multi-inspector more than two inspectors because you and an assistant or you and another inspector, that's a team.
Hmm.
Um, any more than that, and you become a manager. Instead of being on a team, you start managing people. So decide, do you want to manage people? Because that is very difficult. It's a completely different skill set than being in a home inspector and managing people on site, like managing your clients, managing agents. It's completely different when you're managing the inspector. So first of all, decide, is that what I want to do? Uh, when I was the most profitable, per hour, I should say, most profitable per hour, is when it was just me and one or two guys, because less management, less time watching, and it was just fun. Meet up for late lunch or early breakfast or something and hang out. It's just fun. It's like the sweet spot. It's like your teens of your business. It's like, woohoo, this is fun. It's not the infancy of your business. So personally, the most enjoyable time was that. I say profitable per hour because It's a little less time and it's a lot more fun. When it comes to hiring people, there's a weird mentality that we tend to get is when I have the work, that's when I'll hire someone. But that's like saying when I get to the prom is when I'm going to try to find my date. Likely everybody has already taken up. So trying to find somebody when you hit the right number of inspections, you tend to make desperate decisions. Like this guy seems to fit the bill, even subconsciously. And we always tend to gravitate towards old contractors because a lot of us are old. I'm an old contractor.
Right.
The problem is an independent contractor usually has a mentality of I like to work for myself, and then they look at the books and they're like, oh well, he got paid $600 for that inspection and he only gave me 300. If I did that on my own, it's a contractor mentality. I always did the best of finding the right person, and whether or not I had that work, I made it happen because the right person comes along very, very rarely. And if I don't have the work and I can't hire the right person, no matter how desperately I want them, I raise my prices. So a couple bits of reasoning in there. So first of all, usually when I found somebody that was amazing, it was someone who was more like a foreman or firemen. They make
Mhm.
great home inspectors because they're usually 3 days on, 4 days off in their schedule. So they have no aspirations of leaving you and starting their own business. They're like, wait a minute, you're telling me you'll pay me X amount of dollars twice a day on my days off where I was looking for work anyways? Yeah, that sounds perfect. And they do a great job. They're used to dealing with people in difficult situations. Not much gets them riled, and they tend to be thorough and safety conscious. Perfect. Foremen, same kind of thing. They know enough about everything, and they're used to just dealing with people. They can walk into a room and kind of command it. So sometimes we look for people who have trade skills, like a contractor. The problem is the trade skills are the easier portion to teach someone. I could teach someone about roof spans. I can teach someone about, okay, here's the outlet tester, here's HVAC units and how they work, all that. Teaching somebody to be nice to the clients, work hard, and to make the client satisfied, not just doing it in the inspection, those are the more difficult things, the soft skills we call them. So when you find that right person, though, no matter where you are in your business, that's the time to make the room for it. The second point I made is raising your prices if you can't find the right person. So let's say we're doing 400 inspections a year, or let's say we're like a couple of guys I know that are doing 500. 500 inspections a year. I mean, that's like 13 or so inspections a week. You're doing 3 a day, working weekends. You're at your max. So if you hire an inspector, now are you turning away 300 other inspections, or is 500 your max? Try to lower your max number of inspections first. So if you can't hire someone, raise your prices $50 an inspection. Let's say you do that, and you say, "Well, I'm going to lose work." Awesome, that's the best part. You want to lose work. You want to make more and work less. So now you raise your prices, $50, and let's say you lose 10% of your work. But if you let's say you were charging $500 for an inspection before, $50 is 10% of that. So now you lost 10% of your work, but you're making the same amount of money.
Right.
And then eventually what will happen is your market will get used to that and you'll go back up to 500. So when you're at 500 again, that's when you need to hire or you raise your prices again. So my thing was always I wanted to be not the most expensive, but the best. And I couldn't be the best at the price points that my competitors were working at. So I was never afraid to be the most expensive if that's what gave my client the best inspection. So you either need to hire to handle the workload, or you need to raise your prices to reduce the workload. Those were my only two options when I needed to hire. So I ended up raising my prices a lot because I wasn't ever able to find really good guys very often. They don't come around very often. So that's why I say when you find one, grab him and do not let go and pay them super, super well. So I don't know if you have any questions from that or if that made sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And I think that's probably it's my flaw, and it's probably a lot of inspectors' flaws that are looking to grow of waiting until they're just swamped and can't handle more inspections. But oh, I guess it's time to hire. And by then, well, how are you going to train the guy if you're this swamped? You know, now you're going from everything that you can handle, and then you're throwing in a guy to that you have to teach and train. Uh, so yeah, definitely not the right time to hire at that point. But my fear is always, well, what if I can't keep his schedule full and enough to be able to feed his family and my family? Yeah. So there's that balance there of trying to figure out, you know, when is the right time to feel comfortable about hiring, and I'm not sure there is a time that you can feel comfortable. You just have to take the
Actually,
leap.
I do. Well, yeah, I do actually have an opinion on that, and it goes back to raising prices. The volume of inspections is not what to look at when it comes to hiring. So, say we're one of those guys that charges $300 for an inspection, and we're doing 600 inspections a year, 7 days a week, just killing ourselves. We think, I need to hire to take this volume. So now you think about the commission splits. Are you really going to get a great guy to work for you? Typically, if you're listening, I like to pay guys per hour and then commission on top of that. But let's say you just do a straight split, $150 to that inspection. Is that really worth a really good guy's time?
Right.
He's going to go drive 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back, write a report, do the inspection, deal with people, answer calls for 150 bucks. And now your overhead is probably going to be more like 125. So are you comfortable with making $25 for that inspection? So now imagine if we progressively, before we hire somebody, we're at 500 inspections. So we raise our prices $50. Then it goes to 450 inspections. And then we go back up to 500. We raise our prices again. We keep doing that. Now we're at $600 per inspection. Your overhead is still going to be 125. Now imagine you pay a guy $300, what he would probably get on his own if you to start out, because you're charging too little. You should not be charging $300 for an inspection.
Right.
You should be charging $600. So now you're paying him $300. He doesn't have to do anything but go there and inspect. You're going to get a really great guy. He's going to want to work hard to keep that job. And now your overhead's still 125. You made 175 on that inspection. That's a better pill to swallow. Your profit margins should still even be better than that with ancillary inspections added on.
Mm-hmm.
But raising our prices, and because when we think that we're actually ready to hire, is oftentimes, my estimate's about 75% to 80% of the time, is actually not the right time to hire, because we're not making the profit that we need to and not able to pay a guy enough to be awesome. And that's what you want. You want your inspectors to go out there and do awesome inspections and do amazing and not want to leave you and start their own company, which no matter what you do could happen. Let's
Right.
just face it. But if a guy's happy with you, let's go back to that fireman illustration. Go to every firehouse out there. Some of the best multi-inspector firms I've met, they just basically leave, half leave flyers at the door of firehouses because these guys are going to do a great job. They have time off when they're not working and they want to supplement their income. Or, go find some foremen that are tired of being in construction. Find that type of person. But you're going to need to pay them to be awesome. So we need to have enough money. And that always goes back to, you ever hear the contractor rule, 2 or 20? Either 2 employees or 20. Because in between those two numbers, it just kind of stinks.
Gotcha.
You're
Yeah.
running around like a crazy person if you have 10 employees, trying to keep track of them and bookkeeping and office staff, and it's just a mess. At 2 employees, you can manage that. Yeah, that's great. Once you get above 20, now it's all just hands off, and you don't have to worry about it because at 20 you are hiring a manager and he's taking
Right.
care of things. So it's that transition in between that stinks. Transition into multi-inspector and transition from small multi-inspector or a team into actual big home inspections. And you have to think, do I want to go through that transition period? But at the same time, we need to charge for it. We need to have our prices right first. I've always told guys, you're not ready to hire, but I'm doing 400 inspections a year. Like, okay, now you split that. Can you live on 200 inspections? No, no, I need 300. I'm like, what are you going to give the other guy? 100? And your prices are 350. So progressively raising our prices, curbing the amount of inspections that we get in is important first. That's the hardest thing for us to do too. We work so hard to get 500 inspections a year and we're proud of that number, or we worked hard to get to 600 inspections. And then it's painful when agents call us, well, I'm not going to recommend you anymore because you're so expensive. Yeah, but that's okay. The other 1,273 agents that refer me, they're still more than happy to refer me at these prices. Whenever I lose agents, referring agents, and lose work because of my prices, I have a sense of pride because that means I'm working at a different level now. I'm not Walmart. You don't see a fancy jewelry store worry about, yeah, I can get that cheaper at Walmart. Okay, go on, go for it. We only want to sell you the best. So that means my product is getting better. So it's a weird way of looking at things, but raising your prices first is extremely important.
No, I get it. I mean, I'm on par with you right there. Makes sense to me. All right. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we're at like 35, 36 minutes. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Uh, great, great insight. And I really do appreciate the time that you've given me. Um, and I look forward to expanding more on it down the road, hopefully, and whether that be on another podcast or just chatting on Facebook or in the groups or whatever. Um, so Ian, thank you so much for coming on. Any parting words for everyone?
Oh man, I got to come up with something good.
Oh no, it could be a dad joke.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Yeah. I heard a really good dad joke, and maybe I'll save it for the next session. But you know, I think you'll like it.
Okay. Well, we're going to have you on our podcast, so everybody listen in, and we'll have Shannon on there. But Shannon, thank you for having us on your podcast. It was really great, and thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, Ian. All rights to this production are the sole property of me, Shannon Gatewood. So keep your grubby hands off, muchacho.